In 1998, Mikhail Gorbachev, the eighth and final leader of the Soviet Union, appeared in a commercial for Pizza Hut. Over the course of the commercial's 60 seconds, the people of Russia argue over Gorbachev, maligning him for bringing about an era of political instability and economic confusion, but ultimately conclude that these hardships were worthwhile because now they have Pizza Hut. The idea of this commercial might sound a little ridiculous, but in the context of the Cold War, American chain restaurants had more power than nuclear submarines. When the first McDonald's opened in Russia in 1990, it was a big deal. It took 14 years of negotiations, had lines stretching for blocks, and introduced the Russian people for the very first time to whatever chemicals compose a McFlurry. But most importantly, its existence was a clear-cut political statement. And that statement was USA #1 baby, hell yeah, capitalism, baby, bald eagle, Elvis Presley, mountain. And people took this statement pretty seriously. By the end of the 1990s, economists had started touting the so-called Golden Arches theory, which was essentially the idea that any two countries with McDonald's would never be at war. Their economic ties to one another would be too strong an incentive against killing each other. This turned out to be not true almost immediately when NATO bombed Yugoslavia in 1999 just to wipe the smug smiles off those academics' faces. Still, the general sentiment prevailed. McDonald's represented an increasingly safe and interconnected world. Anywhere where you could get an Egg McMuffin is somewhere where you probably wouldn't be shot on sight by a foreign military attempting to occupy your country. That is, until Russia started doing that a couple of months ago. When Russia declared war on Ukraine, foreign companies started pulling out of the country faster than I pulled out of that Walgreens parking after hitting a stroller with my car. Apple, Netflix, Coca-Cola, if you can name a company, they probably halted operations in Russia. Shopping malls emptied out, grocery store shelves downsized, and Burger King actually lost control of Russian Burger King, who declared that no one had the, quote, authority or power to stop them, and ignored all pleas from their parent company to shut down their restaurants. But we're not talking about Burger King, we're talking about McDonald's, and McDonald's did actually pull out of Russia, but only kind of. When it first looked like McDonald's was going to pull out of Russia back in March, Russia went ahead and legalized patent theft. And I'm not exaggerating, that's literally what they did, just read the decree. I mean, you probably can't, but it says what I'm saying it says. This paved the way for Russia to potentially just take over any foreign business that left the country, and McDonald's was a high priority. One Russian official pitched an alternative that would be called Uncle Vanya's, and it was quickly trademarked by a local law firm. How they came up with this logo that quickly, I'll never know. Now, McDonald's realized that their 847 restaurants and 62,000 employees were at risk of just getting scooped up and sold by the government if they didn't do so themselves. So, in order to get their Russian restaurants off the books with minimal hassle and maximal profit, they struck a very odd deal with a guy named Alexander Gover, a Russian businessman who already operated a number of McDonald's locations in Siberia. McDonald's would sell all 847 restaurants, the entire chain of Russian McDonald's, to Gover for far less than whatever 847 McDonald's go for these days. The chain would retain the same employees, the same CEO, the same buildings, but it would undergo a process that McDonald's referred to as de-arching, a delightfully cute term they had in store in case any of their chains became embroiled in an illegal international conflict, I guess. The de-arching process means, essentially, that the locations would continue to operate as McDonald's restaurants, just without any reference to McDonald's itself. The company would remain the same legal entity, but it would be renamed from McDonald's LLC to PBO System LLC. Instead of referring to the restaurants as McDonald's, they would be called Vusno i Tochka, which loosely translates to tasty, and that's it. The McDonald's colors and logos would be stripped from the restaurants and replaced with this new design, which looks suspiciously like an M, but is legally speaking just some fun shapes. Most of the menu items had to be renamed too. The McChicken became the Chicken Burger, the Filet of Fish became the Fish Burger, and you can basically just intuit the rest of the menu items. Interestingly, Vusno i Tochka did add exactly one item to the menu that did not exist before: shrimp. I don't know why, but they started selling shrimp. If you wish your local McDonald's sold shrimp, then maybe you should declare war on a European country. Now, for the most part, this was a pretty painless transition. Many restaurants were able to keep operating with little downtime and continue to serve fish burgers as if their country never committed a series of horrible war crimes and isolated itself from the rest of the world. But without the massive global supply chain of McDonald's behind them, problems were inevitable. Within a few months, people began reporting expired sauce packets, moldy food, a couple of extra insect legs, and this particularly upsetting video of birds just kind of hanging out on top of the buns they were storing outside for some reason. You know, bad stuff. Now, all of these reports are anecdotal, and any of them could be propaganda. Some of them probably are. But there's at least one very strong indication from the restaurant itself that things aren't going all that smoothly, and that's that a whole bunch of their locations can't even serve fries anymore. Because of poor potato harvest in Russia this year and their newfound inability to import potatoes, Russian McDonald's has been struggling to secure McDonald's simplest and most iconic item. Does this mean that Russian people are doomed to a future of non-existent fries and bird-flavored buns? Not necessarily. The deal that McDonald's struck with Gover gives them the option to buy back their restaurants anytime within the next 15 years. They said that they wouldn't, but they also said the McRib is back, and look what happened with that. If this video didn't kill enough of your dreaded free time, don't worry. I have an evening's worth of entertainment that is scientifically proven to keep my audience entertained. First, you're gonna hop on Nebula, the educational streaming site that I helped co-found, and you're gonna watch Crime Spree, the Nebula exclusive series where I travel all over the US trying to break America's weirdest laws. People love this series so much that we spun it off into a whole new channel called Jetlag the Game, which is currently airing our race around the world a week early on Nebula, so you'll want to get caught up on that too. After that, you should watch one of our Nebula exclusive documentaries like The Colorado Problem or Alaska's Silent Summer. And if you're still awake, you might want to check out Real Life Lore's Nebula exclusive series Modern Conflicts, which is currently 15 episodes deep. But before you sign up for Nebula, let me sweeten the deal. The cheapest way to get Nebula is to sign up for the CuriosityStream Nebula bundle. It's only $14.79 for an entire year, and in addition to all of the stuff I talked about on Nebula, you also get access to CuriosityStream's massive catalog of shows and documentaries. All you gotta do is sign up with our link, curiositystream.com/HAI, and you'll be supporting all of our channels while you're at it.